You are likely sitting there right now, feeling the weight of a world that never stops talking, wondering why you feel so drained after every conversation and why the loudest voices always seem to command the most attention. You might feel a constant, invisible pressure to fill every silence, to explain your choices to people who haven't earned your vulnerability, or to offer an opinion on things that don't truly move your soul. This is the modern exhaustion of oversharing, a quiet thief that steals your energy and leaves you feeling misunderstood and exposed. We live in an era where silence is often mistaken for a lack of intelligence or a lack of confidence, yet the ancient wisdom of the Stoics suggests exactly the opposite. They understood that the person who can sit comfortably in the quiet, choosing their words with the precision of a craftsman, is the person who holds the true keys to power and respect. Within the Stoic tradition, and particularly in the teachings of the former slave Epictetus, silence was not merely a lack of noise but a deliberate exercise in character and self-mastery. He taught that we should be mostly silent, speaking only when the occasion truly demands it, and even then, keeping our words few and meaningful. This practice of selective silence acts as a filter for the soul, ensuring that whatever leaves your lips has been weighed and measured for its truth and its necessity. When you stop trying to compete with the noise around you, something remarkable happens. You begin to build what the Emperor Marcus Aurelius described as an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that remains calm even when the world outside is in a state of chaos. The noise of the ego is what usually drives us to speak. It is that small, insecure part of ourselves that craves validation and fears being overlooked. We talk because we want to be seen, because we want to prove we are right, or because we are afraid of what people will think if we stay quiet. But the Stoics remind us that what others think is an external factor, something entirely beyond our control, and therefore it should be of no concern to us. By surrendering the need to control the opinions of others through our speech, we reclaim a massive amount of internal energy that can be used for much higher purposes. Imagine, if you will, a village nestled in a deep valley, where every inhabitant carries a jar. In this village, the people believe that the more they shout into their jars and the more noise they make, the more important they become in the eyes of their neighbors. Most of the villagers have jars that are thin and hollow, and when they speak, the sound echoes loudly, creating a constant, rattling din that fills the streets. They are constantly checking to see whose jar is making the most noise, living in a state of perpetual anxiety and competition. However, at the edge of the village lives a man who has never been seen shouting into his jar. Instead, he spends his days carrying it to a distant, silent spring, filling it slowly and carefully with clear, cool water. When people approach him with their rattling jars, seeking an argument or a boast, he simply listens. Because his jar is full and heavy, it makes no sound when he moves. The villagers initially mock him, calling him empty-headed or dull, but eventually, when a great drought hits the valley and the noisy jars offer nothing but dry echoes, the people find themselves drawn to his home. They realize that his silence was not a sign of emptiness, but proof of his depth. He had been gathering something far more valuable than noise, and in his stillness, he became the only one with the strength to sustain the community. This is the difference between the noise of the ego and the depth of a well-ordered mind. Deep within the Stoic meaning of silence is the realization that our words are one of the few things we can truly call our own, yet once they are spoken, they are no longer in our power. Seneca, one of the most eloquent Stoic writers, observed that a well-ordered mind is best proven by a person's ability to stop exactly where they are and pass time in their own company without the need for external distraction or constant chatter. When we overshare, we are essentially leaking our internal power, giving away pieces of our fortress to anyone who happens to be passing by. Epictetus warned that we should avoid the vulgar topics of conversation that common people obsess over, things like sports, food, drink, or especially gossiping about others to blame or praise them. To a Stoic, talking about these things is a sign of a mind that is still under the influence of externals, a mind that hasn't yet learned to look inward for its own help and harm. True power lies in the ability to observe a situation, feel the impulse to react, and then choose silence instead. This choice creates a space between the event and your response, a space where your reason can actually operate. Marcus Aurelius famously noted that the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, because it requires us to be prepared for unexpected attacks from the world around us. Silence is the stance of the wrestler, firm, rooted, and observant, rather than the frantic movement of the dancer trying to please an audience. In practical life, this doesn't mean you must become a hermit or never speak again, but it does mean adopting a new filter for your interactions. You can begin by practicing the 3-second rule: when someone says something that triggers you, or when you feel the urge to jump into a conversation just to be heard, wait for 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, ask yourself if what you are about to say is true, if it is kind, and most importantly, if it is necessary. Often, you will find that the impulse to speak was merely a reaction of the ego, and by staying silent, you allow the moment to pass without losing your composure. You will find that people begin to listen more closely when you do choose to speak, because they know your words aren't wasted. You gain respect not by demanding it, but by showing that you are a person who cannot be easily rattled or provoked into mindless speech. As Marcus Aurelius suggested, the best revenge against a person who treats you poorly is simply to not be like them. If they are loud and reactive, your silence is the ultimate statement of your superiority over your own impulses. This is how you protect your inner peace in a world that is constantly trying to invite you into its conflicts. The emotional climax of this journey comes when you realize that silence is not a void to be feared, but a sanctuary where you finally meet yourself. For too long, you may have used speech as a shield to keep people at a distance or as a bridge to seek their approval, but in the stillness, you find that you don't actually need either. You realize that your value isn't tied to how well you can explain your life to others, but to how well you can live it according to your own principles. There is a profound sense of relief in knowing that you don't have to have an opinion on everything, and you don't have to win every argument. You are going to die one day, and as Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, that reality should determine what you do, say, and think right now. When you view your life through the lens of your own mortality, the petty social pressures to talk and perform begin to feel incredibly small. You start to stingily guard your time and your energy, realizing they are the only things truly worth being stingy with. You find a quiet, unshakable strength in the knowledge that while others are dancing like puppets to the strings of external events, you are standing still, rooted in your own reason. As you move forward into your day, I invite you to experiment with the power of selective silence. Try to go through just 1 hour without speaking a single unnecessary word. Watch how the world reacts to your stillness, and more importantly, listen to the thoughts that arise when you aren't busy trying to push them out through your mouth. You may find that the silence is louder and more honest than any conversation you've had in years. This is the path to becoming a proficient of your own mind, a person who looks to themselves for all help and harm. If you found value in these reflections, I hope you will choose to stay with us as we continue to explore the maps left behind by the ancient sages. Simply being present is enough, and your journey toward an unshakable inner citadel has already begun. Take a deep breath, embrace the quiet that follows, and remember that you have something in you more powerful and miraculous than anything that can happen to you. Be at peace with the silence, for in that silence, you are finally free.